Okay, I'm getting a lot of yeses from my webinar chat, so I thank you all. I am Karen Donahue. I am the Director of Partnerships over here at TRAILD. I've had a lot of experience with ERPs. Specifically, I was certified for Acumatica in 2017, so really excited to take you all through TRAILD today. So thank you very much for joining us. We're still working out a couple little hicks with getting some people involved, specifically some folks from OPUS. So hopefully they'll come through. But what we'll do is, Greg, if you want to start to record this, that would be great. And then we'll go ahead and just start the actual demo since we're about 6 minutes late. And again, apologies for technology today.
Okay, we are recording.
Fantastic, thank you. What I'd like to do is just level set that this is a webinar for all of you that are attending. And I know that we'll probably have Bo join in a little bit to do any other kind of introductions, or let's just say we'll have him talk at the end or Valley talk at the end. But right now, let's just get through and start the demo. What you are looking at is our TRAILD in tray. TRAILD is an AP automation, risk protection, and full financial control for your companies. We are seamlessly integrated with Acumatica. So one of the things that you're going to notice is that there is seamless integration within Acumatica. And just to kind of level set and show you how, I'm going to log into Acumatica and let you actually see how we can plumb into it. So what you're noticing here is this is my bills and adjustment. That's just my favorite, right? But you're going to notice that in here, under my favorites, I actually have TRAILD embedded inside of Acumatica. That is something that you could choose to do. As you can see right here, I've got TRAILD embedded into payables as well as my favorites, and you can launch it straight away from Acumatica. Now, you're not required to do that. It's simply an option for you. We find that a lot of our customers really like to have it embedded because it feels like it's all that just one system. Okay. Do know that I am going to run my demo straight away just so I have a little bit more real estate on my screen from the actual executable file, which again is just your trailedtech.com. First thing that I want to point out is that we are extremely minimalistic in our approach. We really like for information to come to our end users as opposed to the end users having to like hunt and peck for information. So you're going to notice that we're very minimalistically laid out with a nice little toolbar up here on the top with some additional information over here, my end user information, my settings, my help files, which we'll go into later, which are actually embedded into TRAILD. And then we go down here to our secondary toolbar, which is our first filtering bar. So you'll notice I'm in invoices and I go to all. I've got a big old upload invoice button. We're going to be going into that next. And then I've got a whole nother second set of filtering right here. We also have a text for search. So if I was looking for, let's say, my master catering company, I could actually type in there and everything master catering would come up. Now, one of the things that I always like to point out is that we are device agnostic. I always like to show this when I get into my approval state because it'll show you exactly how a person that's maybe on the road might want to log into TRAILD to be able to approve some invoices. But we'll get into that in a few minutes. Let's talk about the main question folks always ask, which is how do we get our invoices into TRAILD? Easy answer is by an AP email inbox, right? A lot of us have AP email inboxes where we can actually at TRAILD create an Outlook connector so that you guys don't have to change that email address for any of your vendors. We would actually just have it forwarded into, say, opus@trailedtech.com, and then it would actually come straight away into Trailed and be waiting for you here. So you'll notice here's a whole bunch of these that I actually have that are waiting for me to take action on. The secondary way is by uploading invoices. And you could do this in two different ways. You can go out and choose the documents. So in this particular case, maybe I want to take this one, this one, this one, and hit open. It's going to bring those invoices up. When I upload those, what's happening now behind the scenes is Trailed is actually processing these invoices. And when I say processing, I mean, you're going to see right here, I got 4 documents processing now. Trailed is going, and our proprietary OCR technology is actually reading those invoices behind the scenes. And it's bringing all of that information into Trailed for you. The secondary way to upload invoices is actually even a little simpler, meaning I can actually have a directory open, and now I can just highlight the ones that I want to bring over, and I just drag and drop them. I hit that upload all button, and very similar to what was just happening in the previous one, it's doing the exact same functionality, just by landing them a little bit different. Now, as I mentioned when I first started, we like to be very visual for our customers. We like to push the information to them. So if I put my AP clerk hat on right now, the first thing that I'm going to notice as an AP clerk is I'm going to see this big old red button above my invoices. That is an indicator to me that these invoices, new invoices, have landed inside of Trailed. So when I click on that button, what you're going to see is a couple of those have already landed as drafts. You'll notice I uploaded all of those first. And then those last 3 that I just brought in, they're still processing. Typically takes around 3 to 5 seconds for each invoice to process. When they're actually already emailed into it, it's actually much quicker. I'm going to go ahead here and click that button again, and now you're going to notice that those 3 that were just processing a few moments ago are actually invoiced, or are actually in here into my in tray now. One more thing I want to point out is this second one that I have here for Acuity Accounting. Notice that when it came in, that first one and the third one here landed as draft. The second one came in as a pending review invoice, already with a risk warning. We're going to get to that in a few minutes. That's going to be one of my wow factors that I like to call, because it's one of our newest feature functionalities that we're calling zero touch invoicing, and it is amazing. So let's go into bringing in an invoice with a GRN or a receipt available. So for today, I'm just going to call them receipts. So you're going to notice the first thing that Trailed is going to do is let you know if there is a receipt available. This is the seamless integration that we have with Acumatica. So you're going to notice that on this one, when it came in into my summary in tray, it's telling me that I actually have a receipt that's available. So when I actually click into this invoice, what you're going to see here is you're going to see that digital rendition of the invoice over here on your left. And then over here, you're going to see how Trailed has read that invoice. Now, Trailed is reading it utilizing our proprietary OCR technology, which also has a underlying classification engine that is built into it with always on AI machine learning. So that's one of the key differences that sets us apart from any competition, is that we actually built our OCR technology specifically for Trailed for Acumatica. And what you're going to notice is that because we've got that classification engine, we're actually learning every single step as we go. Trailed is learning and memorizing what you all do in your day-to-day with your vendors. So what you can see over here is my invoice number, okay? As you'll notice, there's a red box that's going around where that invoice number is. You'll notice as I scroll down, that red box is moving and jumping around. What that is it's us teaching TRAILD exactly where it is. Now, we always like to let people know that the very first time that TRAILD reads an invoice from one of your vendors, there's a 90% chance of accuracy of TRAILD getting all of the mapping correct for all of the different fields on the invoice versus into TRAILD. By the second time we do it, we jump up to 99%, and that's because of that always on machine learning. As I go to the next one, for any of you guys that are out there that have multiple branches and or companies inside of Acumatica, this is where we could actually put that in. So if I wanted to switch it out, say instead of my Melbourne, it's actually a Sydney branch that I want to put this to, I could make that change there. If you have multiple divisions, we can also configure your system to go there that way through your email addresses. So we could have a specific email address for Melbourne or Sydney or wherever it happens to be. Now, the ERP supplier over here is going to come directly from your AP vendor master table. So again, seamless integration to Acumatica. When I look here, it's matched up completely that Oz Organics is this invoice. It's brought all the information from Oz Organics over here. So in this field, you're going to get everything from AP Vendor Master, all their banking information. You're going to get the currency and tax category also off of the AP Vendor Master, whereas net total, tax total, and invoice total here are going to come off of the actual invoice. You will notice here that you even have a chance to have the TRAILD learn where you want to take the exact amount due. In this case, it's taking it from this red box over here, but maybe I wanted it to take it from like the total of the invoice, not the less amount paid. I can actually teach the system to do it from there. Now, as we scroll down further, you're going to notice here on my PO number. Again, same as that invoice number, we want to teach it exactly where to put it. So if I said this is exactly the spot, that's where TRAILD is going to learn. Now, even though I have receipt/GRN number here, I want you guys to keep in mind, this is simply a reporting, an indexed reporting field. So anything that you all might use as like a memo or any kind of a reporting field, that's what this is. Because keep in mind, if you do have a receipt number, it's going to be located down here in your goods area. This is one of my favorite parts because we actually plumb into, if you're using projects inside of Acumatica, we can actually plumb into different projects here. This is actually plumbing into it at a header level. You will also have an opportunity, you'll notice right down here, to plumb that line item into a specific project number as well. Same thing for a subtask or material is right there as well. Invoice date is going to come directly off of the invoice, as is the due date. But something to keep in mind is that we're also looking at your payment terms that are in your your AP vendor master. So if there is a big discrepancy, what we're going to do is just give you a nice little warning box here and maybe a red line under here that just gives you that indicator, hey, you might want to take a quick look at this. Your posting period is simply that. Whatever post period that you currently have, my system happens to be set up for my default period in Acumatica, it would be the exact same thing. Now, knowing that we just finished a month end, almost halfway into a new one, what you're going to notice is that if you do have the appropriate credentials in Acumatica to change it to a, say, previous post period, you would have the same rights to do it inside of TRAILD. Now, this description is, again, just like I set up here, it's a indexed reporting field that you can use for memo's sake. Now, the quick way to do this for an invoice that I've got 3 GRN lines, you'll notice here, I've got PO 636 on this particular invoice. They've only charged us for 2, but it looks like I've got 3 GRN line items available. This is so that I can show you how we can handle things that are anomalies, where you might get an invoice that has either more or less than what an actual purchase order and or your receipted items were. In this case, what you're going to see is I can click this button, and this is, again, seamless integration to Acumatica. It's going to bring those line items. Well, I can see that this particular line item didn't get billed on this invoice. I can just delete it off of there. What you're going to notice is that my variance went away. It's green, and in SysPro, anytime you see green, green means go. And so over here, what you're going to notice that, again, because this was in your purchase order and receipt table, I can't make any changes to my GL code or my sub account. However, like I was pointing out, if you wanted to put one of these line items to a specific project, you could. I could put this line item here to a project. I could even put a subtask in there. And now I've got that coded into Acumatica for that particular project. As I scroll further down, what you're going to see here is activities. Activities literally is just an auditing feature. So every single thing that happens inside of TRAILD, you're going to have a record of that. Whether it's me here as Karen, I'm just an admin, or maybe it's one of our automated features, a TRAILD automated features, you still will have a record of that activity. Now, this comment area down here is actually really cool, and it works within conjunction of our little notification tab up here. I like to call it instant messaging inside of TRAILD. So I can put in my coworker, Arya Stark, and I could say on this one, missing one line item. Okay, so all I'm doing is letting Arya know that I'm actually missing a line item on this one. Not that I need to tell her, but this is that instant messaging system where I can let her know. Now, Arya is going to get not only a notification up here in her notification tab, but she'll also, if she subscribes to it, get an email notification that lets her know I've mentioned her in a comment in TRAILD. Go check it out. Now, again, the GL code and sub account has already been picked at the purchase order level, so I have nothing to do there. And now you'll notice that I have this one subject to approval rules. One of the cool things I like to point out on this is that if, say, for example, I wanted to wait for Arya to let me know about that missing line item, I could, if I wanted to, save this as a draft, mark it as on hold or as urgent, and then go on. In this case, I'm okay with it. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And now it goes to my next step in our AP workflow process. Now, I'm going to go into this next one here, which is also a receipt available. And this is going to kind of complete that last example for you. So this is another one from Oz Organics, except this one is for PO 638. And you'll notice on that purchase order, I'll skip over all the OCR, I do have 3 receipted items on here. So again, quick, easy peasy way is to click into here, bring those 3 line items that match that purchase order of 638, and you'll notice that I have a variance. So here's where, again, that integration to Acumatica comes in. I click on this open receipt selector. One thing I do want to point out, you also, if there's anybody in the audience that is part of a construction firm and potentially uses subcontractor, we actually plumb into that and we can do an entire demo based on construction. And then we also plumb into the landed cost selector as well. So 3 different options when it comes into plugging into the goods. In this case, I'm just going to plug into that open receipt selector. And what you're going to see here is a direct lookup into Acumatica. You'll notice that I do have a filter here for 638. If I take that off, what you're going to see here are the 3 line items open that I have for that 636. When I want to match up that one for advertising, you could see here it's PO 636. I grab that line item, I just click into it and I add it. And now you'll notice that I still have a variance of 165. Well, when I actually look at it, I can see it's because of the freight. I didn't attach freight to my original purchase order, which a lot of us don't do. In this particular case, TRAILD has actually come up with a great way to do that. We can add freight to that purchase order invoice after the fact. So now I can add that freight button. And now what you're going to notice is the OCR technology read the freight from right here. You can see exactly where it did that. But our typical freight expense, and you'll notice right here, a direct lookup into the GL. Maybe I didn't want it to go to this freight expense. Maybe I wanted it to go to this one. I can actually change that if I choose to, also change my sub account. But you will notice that my default freights don't have GST on it. So because I still have a $15 variance, which is obviously because they charged me GST on this, what you're going to notice here is I can do one of three things. The first way, which makes it super easy, is to actually just say, yep, this one they're going to pay for GST on this freight. It's going to automatically go to the proper GL code for that tax category of attracting GST. If it's an anomaly and you'd prefer not to do that, we can just go back to that no GST, and now we could do the one of two things. We can either add a manual line here, which is going to let you put whatever you need to in here. I actually, in these kinds of cases, much prefer our rounding lines, because now I can say freight GST, come quickly over here to my GL code and type in here GST for my GST paid, look that up, put that particular line item in. Now you're going to notice I have no variance. Again, in my activities, anything that I've done is going to come up here. Again, I've got my GL codes that are all part of that, and I have this one as subject to approval rules. I might just want to let Aria know here, missing line item found. So now Aria knows that I have that, and I just put in 636, and then I put in GST plus freight. So what I'm doing is I'm just giving Aria like a little heads up. I just happen to know she's my approver. So I'm giving her a heads up that lets her know that everything is actually okay on here. I submit it. Now, in the beginning, when I told you I wanted you to kind of take a look at this one, how it came up when it came up with pending review. This goes directly to one of our new features that we've just come up with. I'm going to open it up in a new link for you. On a supplier level, we have come up with a way, and I'm going to go into my Acuity real quick. So I'm going to use my little search, go into my Acuity. Acuity is somebody that I always have purchase orders and receipts available for. So in order to try to make this as easy to use for all of our end users, we've come up with a way to, on a purchase order level, purchase order and receipt level, automatically populate the goods section line. So you saw when I actually auto-populated it by hitting that receipt button. And then in turn, auto-submitting it for the approval process. And if it is used in conjunction with our approval process, we're calling that a zero-touch invoice, okay? And how that works is this. Excuse me, a little frog in my throat. I'm going to go back into that same invoice. And now what you're going to notice that when it came in, and like I talked about before, under the auditing activities, I uploaded that invoice. It automatically brought the goods in based on the purchase order number and the vendor, brought that line item in. You're going to notice here, I've got that little visual lookup to look in what my purchase order and my receipt number was. Even my part number comes in. And now you'll notice that it was auto-submitted for review by the system. So TRAILD actually did that auto-submit. Because I have this subject to approval rules, like I was saying, I have an approval rule behind the scenes that said anytime Acuity comes in and it meets this criteria, then go ahead and get it ready for us to go in and pay it, right? So in this case, it's showing a very small risk, and we're going to get into risk factors in a few minutes, but it's showing a very small risk. This is something you're going to see across the board. Anytime we have a risk factor, it's going to tell you what your typical invoice total is right now, what your supplier average is. It'll even plumb in and give you historical data from Acumatica. And then in this case, I've got one small risk factor. I just haven't approved any invoices for Acuity for, say, laptops. So that's why it's kind of saying this. But you will know it's been subject to approval rules. I don't need to do anything. So this is my example of a zero-touch invoice. Now, let's get into a couple invoices that don't have receipts available. We can handle any kind of invoices that are coming into your system. Here is one that's for services. So this is going to be a non-purchase order. You can see here I did a verbal, non-PO, non-receipt. It's for services. All I have to do, OCR is still going to work exactly as it does up there. Now, as a clerk, all I have to do is hit add from invoice. You're going to see all that OCR is now reading it directly from that line item. You'll also notice in these three columns here, I can actually do a pull down to train the system exactly where I want it to look at those. So all those, wacky invoices that come in from people that have things in weird places, you can actually teach the system exactly on a columnar level where to look. You will notice I don't have any variance in here. It went straight away to my default GL code that's part of Acumatica. My upload is there. And again, I have this one subject to approval rules, so I'm just going to submit it. Okay, next one that I'm going to show, I like to show this one because it shows a little different functionality. So right here under my Bunnings, you're going to notice here that I have my Bunnings where I sent Hamilton over to the store to pick up some items. And the reason I like to show this one is twofold. I like to show that we're able to split invoices. So when you look at this, maybe I don't really necessarily care about these line items that they got. I just want to split it into, say, 2 different GL codes or maybe 2 different projects, whatever I want to do. So in this case, I could say, let's just split this invoice into 2. This is splitting it at a header level. I hit the apply button, and what you're going to see now, I could put anything I want into description 1 and 2. I can change this GL code and say, I wanted this, not that I ever would, but I want this to go to marketing. And then I want to put in a sub account for marketing. Now I can also at a line level put in that project. So this project I want to put into my software implementation and my realization for my subtask. So this way I can actually do it on a header level by splitting it into 2. I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to cancel that. And now I'm going to show you the secondary way we can do that. We can actually add from the invoice. And what you're going to see here is it's going to bring, again, the OCR technology is going to read each of those individual lines. Now, I could go in and give each one of these a GL code, but again, like to show you functionality. Say over here, I want to do cost of goods sold. Okay, so I can bring this in and I can just go, okay, I'm going to add it at every level so that my cost of goods sold is there, right? Now, though, I might want to take this 20 pieces of pipe that I got and split that into 2 line levels. So now I can actually split it at a line level into 2. You'll notice that it comes in, splits it into 2. If I wanted to do 15 and 5, I could do the same thing. But now I can do exactly what I showed you earlier, which is I can go into here and say, okay, I want to make this a marketing expense. I want to change my my sub account. And then again, I want to do that software implementation. And then this one, I actually want to put to my server build. So again, you could see how potent that could be. This is all my, also my example of if you have like a small purchase price variance. So I have a penny. It was literally just a rounding line. I can click this add rounding line. When it comes in there, what it's going to do is it's going to bring that rounding line in for that 1 penny. And then I can make a change to that rounding line right here. And I could just say, you know what? I want this rounding line to actually go to my purchase price variance. I click on that button. It now goes to my proper GL code. I've got no variance here. And now you're going to notice again, I want this one subject to approval rule. I'm going to go ahead and submit. Few quick things I like to just point out. I'm not going to go into each one independently, but we can handle credit memos. Depending on how you handle credit memos in Acumatica, if you do negative receipts or if you just put credits on account, we can handle credit memos. So you can see that here. We also handle pro forma invoices. So if, for example, something comes in and it says the word pro forma invoice, what you're going to notice is that in one of our risk factor checks, we say, hey, this is a possible pro forma invoice. Are you sure you want to pay it? Next one comes through that we can actually handle handwritten invoices. I always like to level set. As long as the human eye can read it, so can TRAILD. So you'll notice on this one, I've got an example of a handwritten invoice that's come through. We can also do credit card expenses. You'll notice I have a ton of credit card expenses here. I also have expense statements that we can actually do. So we can do personalized demos if that's something that you need to do. And again, we're always looking for anomalies or errors. So I've got an error one here that I like to show. This one, it's that Oz Organics again, but this one, they charged us for one at a unit price of $1,000 with a 10% GST, but they put in $2,000 here. Well, was it a simple mistake or were they trying to swindle us, right? We don't know. So in this case, TRAILD does the math for you. Even though we're reading these fields over here off of the invoice, right? Because this one was an add from invoice, we're doing the math. We're not going to let an issue like this come up because we see where the error lies, okay? This would be one of those examples that I always like to say to people back in the day when I was doing AP. I would like put this to the side of my desk and be like, okay, I'm going to just get to this later. In this case, what I love about it is that we can save it as a draft, mark it as on hold and as urgent. You can see here, I've got a ton of comments to all of my folks. What are they trying to do to us, right? Are we waiting on a new invoice for us? Are we just going to short pay this? What's the deal? So again, if they decided to send a new invoice in and that new invoice came in, and I'm just going to get over here to show you. So say another new invoice came in and it's going to come in and I already know that I have that invoice behind the scenes, but this is that corrected one. You're going to notice here, duplicate invoice numbers. This is one of our very first fraud and error checks, is we're always looking for duplicates. If I choose to, I can go to this view invoice, bring up that original invoice that I have, which is good. Now I can go back to here and go, you know what? I want to get rid of that. And I just go ahead and I delete that invoice out. So super, super simple. Before we get into approvals, last one that I want to show, because this is really cool. I get this invoice in from Avis. It's a 3-page document that comes in as one PDF. But when I look at it, I can see that there's actually 3 different invoices in here. Rather than going out to Adobe and fixing it, I can literally just come in here, use my handy dandy little split invoice. TRAILD's recommendation engine is actually going to go through and say, after this page and after this page, we know you need to cut and split this invoice. So I've got my little splitters. Say I wanted to keep these 2 together, I could always get rid of it. But in this case, I want to put it through. I'm going to split that document. It's going to break those up now into 3 individual invoices ready for me to action. So now as I come back in here, you're going to see 3 individual invoices. Okay. All right, very quickly now, we're going to run into the next process, which is the approval process. So TRAILD works on 2 things. We have approval processes and we have risk factors, and they work in conjunction with each other. So when I go into my approval processes, these are rules. You're going to have very simple ones. These are our auto approve. So this is actually going to show you from a catering and food, if my ERP supplier is equal to bid food or master catering, I can add as many conditions as I want, but in this case, and my acceptable invoice risk level is low, green means go, then go ahead and auto approve it. If I choose to, I can also add either a 2 or a 3-way match depending. Now, when I go back into one that I like to call an if then else statement, what you're going to see here is that my invoice total is $100,000 or more. And the ERP suppliers Air Liquide, Avis, or Bunnings. Then I have an approval path. I can have up to 7 levels of approvals based on whatever rules that you're talking about. I can approve an order in any order or in any order except last. So in this case, the example is it starts with me as an AP clerk, and then it goes to either Tracy or Shraddha or Mark. They're my buyers. And then lastly, it goes to Adam, the owner of our company. He's going to sign off on that last approval. Again, you can have up to 7 levels down here. You can have as many conditions based on all of these different fields that you want. Now, when we actually go back into our invoices, what you're going to notice here, and I'm going to go into like my little pending review and waiting on me, is I've got these green, orange, and then a red. So green means go in TRAILD. So if I click onto this one, this is the one we worked on earlier together. What you're going to see here is that you're always going to have this little risk factor. It's always going to tell you what the invoice total was versus what your historical supplier average was. So normally I pay $2,100. This is well within it. I don't have any other additional risk factors. And let's see what my little, some or all columns have been manually adjusted. Yeah, I did. I manually adjusted that. So TRAILD is just telling you that I actually brought in the different sub-accounts and jobs for this one. So TRAILD, again, is just letting you know that something different happened. Again, you're going to notice any activity I was delegated on this one, as a matter of fact. So you'll see that the assignee was actually come in through an approval rule that was based on this Oz filter. You'll notice that the assignee was set to Adam and Mark, but then it came from Adam to me because I'm a delegate for him. We'll get into that later. And then you'll also notice that I had that missing 1 line item that was out there. You'll notice here I have a view approval path. So again, originally it should have been Adam and Mark, but it went to me as his delegate. So now my job as an approver is 2 things. I have to read the risk factor, and I either have to approve it or reject it. In this case, I'm approving it. It's simple, it's easy to go, and now it's gone through. Next one, I'm going to go into my waiting on me's. Next one that we're going to go into is going to be the second one that we did together. This is the one that I really like because remember, this is the one that I also added Aria, that note to it that said I found that missing line from 636. I probably didn't even need to do that because notice right here, TRAILD did it for me. It is actually one of our risk factors that it captured that there was actually a line item that wasn't linked to this particular PO. Now, frequent transactions. This is another one that I really like. Again, it's that seamless seamless integration to Acumatica in your historical data, whereby it's saying, you know what, we never have this many invoices for Oz. What gives? It's not telling you to stop it. It's literally just telling you that we need to look into it. And then lastly, it's that same one, that supplier maximum. I can explain this one easily away, right? Because we added that additional line item. That's why we've gone over our supplier average. So in here, Again, my job as an approver is to read the risk factor and then either approve or reject. I can go ahead and approve this one. It's good to go. Now, this last one, this is what TRAILD was actually born on, which is our risk factors and our fraudulent catching of errors. It's all security-based. True story, our co-founders were both on different coasts of Australia. Both in their family businesses were defrauded by email compromise. That's where TRAILD began. So in this particular case, what this one is telling me is that I have got payment details that have changed. So in these payment details that changed, the last time I paid Kingfisher, it was this account number. Now, you'll notice that that is, to me, a huge red flag. I want to talk to my buyer about it, have them call Kingfisher directly and find out if they indeed made a remit to change. Second one, supplier tax numbers not detected. Same thing. For whatever reason, I have this guy having a specific tax ID. It's not on here. I want to have that same buyer do that check. And then the last one, in normal places, I've never actually paid these guys more than $1,300 and approved. This is almost double that at $2,900, right? So now I want my maintenance guy to know, okay, hey, did they actually work all these hours? Was there a problem? Whatever it happens to be. In this case, it'd be a perfect one to reject, right? And I have rejection reasons. I don't want to necessarily reject this one. I save it as a draft, mark it as on hold and as urgent, again, keeping it at the top of my queue. And then I mark it up to the various coworkers of mine to answer what those questions are. Okay, make sense? Okay, I understand that there were some questions in there. We'll try to get to those before the end, but if you don't mind, can we wait just for a few minutes and then I don't have time to read them? But we will get right to it. Let me just try to get through the rest of this if I could. Next one is that we've now got all those invoices and they're approved, right? So approvals are out here. Typically speaking, most of our customers have batch exports where we can actually take these and have them batch export out to here. Because what we have literally just done is replace this entire bill entry that we've all just done here. We've entirely eliminated that part. So when I actually go into Acumatica, I want you to see the way that it lands. So inside Acumatica, I'm going to pick on that Oz one again, right? So here's my details, my line items. What you're going to notice is that we are completely embedded inside of Acumatica now. Our TRAILD risk factor, our approver's name, the date that we approved it, of course, all of that information. When we go into the financials, it's going to bring in all of the specific GLs, all that information, taxes, the approval part, all that. One of the things that you'll notice up here, which all of our customers love, is when I go into my files. What you're actually going to see is that same exact documentation that we had inside TRAILD is now actually inside of Acumatica as well. Okay? So that's how it goes through goes through to Acumatica. So we're going to jump over into our payment screen. Couple things that I want to point out here is that we actually have a payment reconciliation screen, which is right here. And what that does is it's bringing over when your next flow is of your payment process, it's bringing that back over into TRAILD for a completely new set of risk factors. And again, you're going to notice green means go, so I don't have to look at any of these. But if I click into this one, you'll see my summary. This one happens to be a credit card payment, right? Here's all my info. I only want to pay attention to the ones that I have variances on. So let's go into this bid food. Two things that you're going to notice on this one. This first one is that there's a completely blank spot here where it says what the risk factor is. That's because somebody completely bypassed TRAILD and our security and risk protection, completely bypassed it and just put this invoice into Acumatica to be paid straight away. Not saying you can't do it, just saying that that's an anomaly. This one down here, this last one, there is an invoice in TRAILD. It went through the risk factor as a low risk. I even have an approval path. Of course, it's my demo system, so it's always going to be me. But when I approved it inside of TRAILD, I approved it for $17. When it was picked for payment, it doubled it to $34. Again, maybe it was a good reason, but you'll notice I can put a comment over here. I can actually, inside TRAILD, I can reject that. I can decide, you know what, maybe I need to have somebody look at it. Now, the next step, which we're not going to get into today, but we also actually have our newest feature, which is called TRAILD Pay. TRAILD Pay is actually the ability to make all of your payments inside of TRAILD as well. We do checks, EFTs, wires, both domestically as well as internationally. We also even have a virtual credit card that we can use that is extremely safe and also offers rebates back to our customers. So again, that's something that if it was of interest to you guys, you could reach out to OPUS and they can schedule something for you to actually see that more in depth. I'm going to jump over to reports because it's super, super easy. We've got multiple types of reports in here. They all export directly to Excel, which is fantastic, with even hyperlinks to get to inside of TRAILD and or documentation. One more thing I want to show in payments, because it's going to directly relate to suppliers, is when I actually go into a payment run, you're going to notice this verification versus self-verify. That's our supplier query. So in our supplier query, one of the things that we offer that again differentiates us from anyone else is that we have supplier verification. We have an exhaustive list of all of our verifications that we're looking at for those particular vendors, because you might not be the only one that's using Bunnings Trade. I might have 1,000 other customers using it. We have an exhaustive list that's going through. It's plumbing into different government databases. It's plumbing into their social footprint. It's plumbing into anything that is public data that we can look at, and we're actually verifying that. Now, you might have brand new vendors that you need to self-verify. It's literally what we've done every single day since AP started, which is we go in and we say, yep, this is their tax number, this is their routing number, this is their account number. I vouch for it and put my initials next to it. That's the only difference. The cool part about that, though, is even if you self-verify, it's still going to run through TRAILD's verification process. The next thing that we can do inside of one of these, so let's just say we were in Acuity earlier. Let's go into my master catering and show you a couple more little things. Inside master catering, what you're going to look at is, again, it's a really high level supplier query. But within the supplier query, there's that ERP supplier config I showed you earlier for the zero touch invoicing. You'll also notice that I have a document management or document repository area in here. That is actually able to anything that has to do with APs and AP and suppliers. You can upload and categorize different documents. So like in this case for master catering, it's my menu, it's my contract with them, it's all my pricing, etc. I can add as many documents to it as I want to. And then that's actually going to translate over here into our documents area as well. But before I go into that, I just want to show we also have a vendor statement reconciliation. Right now, currently, out of the box, we can do manual vendor statement reconciliations. Coming in the next maybe 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to have a new enhancement that's coming out that's going to do automatic vendor statement reconciliations, which is something that our customers have been asking for a while. But now if I want to go actually from the supplier level, you'll notice I've got my document management right there, but I also have from this tab as well a document management area. And what's great about this is if you choose to use our payment options, you'll notice I've got batch payments in here. I also have additional places that in my invoices, I want to attach additional documents, say like a packing list or a bill of lading or a certificate of analysis. I can categorize those as invoices. Of course, the supplier statements that we just talked about, and then that ERP supplier document I mentioned when it comes to the actual master data, right? On end users, we've got multiple different end users here. Aria is who I love. She is in 4 different roles. So she's basically one step down from a super user, or she is a super user, one step down for an admin. Each of our roles has specific definitions behind them. Everybody has their own approval limit, their own permission set, and then of course, branch and/or company access. As I go all the way back here, what you're going to notice here are delegations, which we talked about. This is fantastic for when people go on holiday, or maybe they have to be out sick one day. You can create as many delegations and then have different people and then literally just change the date range. Simultaneously, we also have this ability, so if there is an actual approver and they leave the company, you can put them in as a replacement and approve and apply to all the rules that are out there so nothing falls through the crack. Lastly, it's our release notes. In a true SaaS fashion, we are consistently and constantly updating our system. So again, you're going to see all this information in here. We make it super easy for all of our end users. And then lastly, I'm going to just jump into this one because I have it open already, is our help files. Our help files are completely embedded. You'll see right here. Help files are completely embedded inside of TRAILD. You never have to leave TRAILD. You can come in here for our user guide or anything. And if, for example, you needed additional help, you're right in our ticketing system as well to submit a request. And I know I've literally only given us 3 minutes left. Looks like we've got a one question. I need to be able to match a receiving record to an invoice before it can be paid. How will TRAILD let me know the 3-way match is complete? So basically, if you're matching a receiving record to an invoice, you're going to be doing that inside of TRAILD, right? So if I'm in my invoices and that receiving record is out here, like for example, for this one right here, you would see that, you'd be able to capture it that way. That after you do that, then that 3-way match is complete once it's approved in here. And I can actually give you, Alan, if you'd like, we can connect on a private level and I can actually take you through a specific example of that, if that works. Okay, I'm going to stop talking, turn it back over to the OPUS team and Greg. And then if there's any other questions, I'm always here and can help answer anything. I'm turning it over to you, Greg.
Okay. Hey, Bo, you on? Can you hear us?
I don't see Bo on.
Oh, okay. He is a participant here, but perhaps he's not able to hear us or be able to speak on this. I just wanted to take a second to thank you all for attending on OPUS's behalf. A recording will be offered to you guys from Bo, so I'll forward that on to him, and he can then send it on to whoever would like it. As usual, we work very closely with our partners. We very much appreciate our partners, and we very much appreciate OPUS bringing this on today. If anybody has any specific questions and/or would like to see a deeper dive into some of the technology, we're always available. Please work with Bo, and we'll bring in the necessary resources for you guys. And I'll give you back a whole minute of your day.
Thank you again as well. This is Valley with OPUS. I'm still here. But yes, I'll be reviewing with Bo. He had a difficulty there. Thank you all for participating. We're really excited about TRAILD and what it can do for our clients. Really fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks. Bye bye.